Well, are you looking for a health group that offers high quality and comprehensive mental health, addiction, and co-occurring disorder treatment programs for adults and adolescents? Well, Nicole Popper, Marketing and Communications Director of Palm Desert Area Chamber of Commerce, wants you to look no further as she brought Dr. Ashish Bhatt, Chief Medical Director at Sovereign Health. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I'm so happy to have Sovereign Health on with us again. This is a really good relationship. And I don't know about you, but I'm learning a lot from about addiction and about what they do.
Yeah,
So.
I really truly feel like addiction affects all of us.
Definitely.
It truly does. And I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I know you guys have a great team over there. So how long have you been a part of the PDACC Chairman Board?
We have been part, I think, Nicole, you can answer that. We've been part of the board for how long?
Well, they've been a member for a couple years now, but they're really stepping up to the plate on getting their name out there.
Okay.
They're doing what it takes to get Sovereign Health out there. They're going to be part of our expo coming up in October.
So that was more of a question for you.
Yeah, either one.
So tell me what addiction really is and how someone becomes addicted. We all have our ideas. You're the pro.
No, thank you for that question. Addiction is recognized in the medical community as a brain disease. It is something that we look at as an illness. And addiction is something that's very complex. It's when a drug or alcohol is introduced into the body and develops some sort of relationship with the brain. Now, how that relationship develops and what significance that will have depends a lot on a major risk factor, and that happens to be genetics.
Okay.
Now, that interplay starts to happen between reward, memory, motivation, and alteration of the brain's neurocircuitry. So we don't really know from the beginning how somebody will react once a substance is introduced. But over time, as that brain starts to alter from that exposure to drugs or alcohol, the memory, the chemicals, the motivation pursuing that reward starts to change. And ultimately, the motivational hierarchy starts to get very dysregulated. And unfortunately, people continue to use when they're fully addicted, despite negative consequences.
I see. Okay. So speaking of negative, I know that opioids usually has the strongest stigma when it comes to addiction.
Yeah.
Is there anything about opioids that makes it more addictive? Is there something in it? I mean,
well, I definitely think opioids, from what we know scientifically, it has a very distinct chemical property, chemical characteristic, that if we look at a statistic, that 50% of the average population can become physically dependent on this drug, even if given at therapeutic dosages. So even as prescribed by a physician for your pain condition, for example, you can become physically dependent in as little as 2 weeks on dosages that your doctor prescribed. And that doesn't mean addiction, though. That doesn't necessarily mean addiction, but it means you have to be supervised, and that if your body doesn't slowly come off of those pain medications, you could have some level of withdrawal.
Okay. Wow, interesting. I never knew that. 50%.
And the side effects from that as well that people get is important.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because what are they getting from using those pains in an abusive way? Those pain medications produce often a euphoria. And what's happened and what we've seen is that as there's been tighter regulation on prescribing those pain medications, and they're no longer available as much on the street, there's been a diversion. And what we've seen as there's less pain medicines on the streets, the price goes higher. People often seek out alternative mechanisms to get high. And that's why we've seen that increase in heroin use amongst those pain users in the past.
For instance, oxy to heroin.
Exactly. And unfortunately, because they don't know how to judge what's going to happen, a lot of people are overdosing and dying, and this has become a national epidemic.
Okay. So what do you attribute to the increase of overdosing, especially on heroin?
Well, I do believe that what we spoke about just recently, it's that transition happens to be one of the biggest factors. Many people who are using these pain medications, they're not sure how their bodies are going to respond to heroin, and they're probably used to taking it in a certain way. And so also, if there's another distinct quality of opioid class drugs, is that once you stop using for a period of time, the tolerance goes down. So if I'm not sure what my tolerance is going to be, and I'm not sure how I'm going to react to the medication, taking a random amount of heroin could lead to immediate death.
Yeah.
And also that heroin is often mixed, or what we call cut up on the streets, with other types of substances.
Yeah. Quick question for you. Tell me about, is there an opiate blocker? In 2016, are we there yet with medicine?
Oh yes, actually we've had an opiate blocker around for some time. Sovereign Health ensures that all of our individuals that we identify as opioid users or even alcoholics, we have an opioid blocker that is FDA approved and has been for quite some time to help block the opioid receptor to prevent somebody from getting high if they have heroin or other opioids introduced into their body.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for that. I had to ask that. If you'd like to reach Sovereign Health, give them a call or check out their website at sovhealth.com. You can also contact Palm Desert Area Chamber of Commerce. Give them a call or check out their website at pdacc.org. Big thanks to Nicole and Dr. Bott for being here today, and we appreciate you. We'll see you after the break.